Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Sofia, and in this video we will learn together about the verb phrase. Does anybody here knows what is the verb phrase is? Anyways, we will learn together in this video what is the verb phrase. So what is verb phrase? There are two meanings of verb phrases, or common known as phrasal verbs. So the first according to traditional grammar, and the second is according to generative grammar. So in traditional grammar, what is meant by a verb phrase is a group of main verbs and auxiliary verbs, or in the form of linking verbs. Meanwhile, in the discussion of generative grammar, a verb phrase is a predicate in a sentence, which means that it includes the main verb, auxiliary verbs, and complements, and or modifiers, if any, but does not include the subject of the sentence. So there are so many type of verbs, but we will talk about 6 type of verbs that maybe in a sentences we will find this kind of verbs in a verb phrase. So basically, in sentences, there are more than one words. There are one or two or three, maybe more. And more words are more complex the sentences is. So the first verb that we will learn together is transitive verbs. And the second is intransitive verbs. Number 3 is the transitive verbs. Number four is intensive verbs. Number 5 is prepositional verb. And number 6 is imperative. Okay. We will move to the first verb that we will discuss together here. So transitive verb is a verb that accepts one or more object, and a verb phrase using a transitive verb has to have a direct object. For example, Mark eat the watermelon. So here in these sentences, there are 4 words. We can see together that Mark is the first word, eat is the second word, the is the third word, and the watermelon is the fourth word. So eat the watermelon is the verb phrase. Why? Because the Mark is noun phrase. Mark is a man name, a boy's name. So the direct object is noun phrase. As we know, the watermelon is the direct object, right? Because the Mark is the subject of these sentences. So let's take a look in this diagram. So S is for sentence. In this sentence, Mark eat the watermelon, as there are 2 phrases. The first is noun phrase, and the second is the verb phrase. As we can see, the noun phrase down, there are noun, and the word is Mark. And the verb phrase, there are 2 components in the verb phrase. There are verb and then noun phrase. The verb is transitive verbs. There is eat. Eat is the transitive verb. And the noun phrase, there are determiner and noun. Determiner the, and the noun is watermelon. So this is the three dry diagram of the sentence Mark eat the watermelon. So there are noun phrase and verb phrase. Why is this is the transitive verb? Because the verb, as we can see, take a look down, and the verb is the eat. And eat is the transitive verb because it requires an object. Okay, let's move to the intransitive verb. Anyways, what is intransitive verb? Does anybody know what is intransitive verb here? Okay, we'll learn together what is intransitive verb. So in grammar, an intransitive verb does not allow a direct object. We need to remember this, that intransitive verb does not take an object. So this is distinct from a transitive verb, which is transitive verbs requires an object, but intransitive does not. So the verb property is called transitivity. Intransitive verbs are often identified as those that can't be followed by who or what. So we'll take a look at the example. Yuta smiled. Smiled is an intransitive verb. Okay, let's take a look in the diagram. So as for the sentences, there are Yuta smiled. Yuta itself is a noun phrase. So Yuta is a noun. And the verb phrase is smiled. Smile is intransitive verb because it doesn't requires an object behind that. Okay? Can you distinguish between the intransitive verbs and transitive verbs? I guess you are pretty smart to know how to distinguish intransitive and transitive verbs. Okay. Let's move to the transitive verb. Anyways, who anybody knows what is the transitive verbs? Just comment in the comment box. Okay, but I will discuss about the meaning of the transitive verbs. So in grammar, a transitive verb is a verb which takes a subject and two objects, which refer to a them and a recipient. According to certain linguistic considerations, these objects may be called direct and indirect object, as we know it, or primary and secondary. If you done find the direct object and indirect object, the other name is primary and secondary. So this is in contrast to monotransitive verbs, which take only one object. So the transitive verbs requires two objects. It's different with intransitive verbs and transitive verbs. Transitive verbs only need one object. Intransitive verbs does not need or requires an object. And the transitive verbs requires two objects. As we know it, direct object and indirect objects. For example, Henry gave the children a cake. Henry gave the children a cake. Okay, let's take a look. Henry is a subject, or we know that Henry is a noun phrase, and the verb phrase is give the children a cake. There are two objects in this word, the children and a cake. Which one is indirect object and direct object? Okay, let's take a look in the tree diagram. As is for sentences, as always, as I said before, that the Henry is the noun phrase. Okay, And the verb phrase has three components. There are verb, noun phrase, and two noun phrase. So there are three components. The verb is the transitive because the object is to. As we can take a look here, the noun phrase is to, right? Look at the cursor, look at the arrows that I move. So this noun phrase and this is the object, the two objects that the transitive requires. So the verb is gives. What kind of things that Henry give the children on a cake? A cake, right. So Henry give a cake, not the children, but Henry give the cake to the children. So which one is the indirect object and which one is the direct object? How to distinguish direct object and indirect object is the thing that relate to the verb is the direct object, and the other object is automatically as the indirect object. So Henry gives the children a cake. The direct object is a cake and the indirect object is the children. So as we know, the verb is gives. The first noun phrase in the verb phrase is the children. The is determiner and the children is a noun. And the second noun phrase in the verb phrase is a cake. Is as a determiner and the cake as the noun phrase. Okay. Number 4 is intransitive verbs. So intransitive verbs are commonly known as linking verb or copular verbs. So they are followed by a noun, noun phrase, adjective, or a prepositional phrase. So for example, like be, seem, appear, become, look is example for its kind of example from intensive verb. Okay, for example, their sentences contains forward Jenny become an idol. So the become is the intransitive verbs. As I said, that intransitive verbs are commonly known as linking verbs, and they are needs. They are always followed by a noun. So the noun is an idol. Okay. Okay. Uh, let's look at the tree diagram. Okay, there are sentences as we know it, and there are two lined here. The first is noun phrase and the second is verb phrase. As we know, noun phrase is the subject of the sentences and Jenny is the noun. And the verb phrase, there are two branch, verb and noun phrase. The verb is intransitive verb that become, and the noun phrase is contain the determiner and noun. The determiner is an and the noun is idol. So Jenny become an idol is need intensive verb. Okay. Let's move to the number 5. We have a prepositional verb. Anyways, a prepositional verb is a verb that is followed by a preposition. So the meaning of these two words together is usually very similar to the original meaning of the verb. For example, to worry about, and a prepositional verbs also, as I said before, that a prepositional verb requires a phrase, a preposition, such as glance, lean, river. So it means that glance at, lean on, river to. For example, Lucas danced on the stage. So where is the prepositional verb is the on. On is prepositional verb. Okay. We move to the diagram. So as for sentences, as always, and this is Lucas. Lucas is in the noun phrase as a noun, and the verb phrase is, dance on the stage. The verb has a complex, so dance, and the verb phrase. No, I mean the prepositional phrase is on the stage. So dance basically need a preposition. We cannot say that Lucas danced the stage. It it's a sentence, but it cannot understandable. It's not understandable. So Lucas danced the stage. So dance, that's a strange sentence. So we need add the preposition phrase, so it can be Lucas dance on the stage. The dance is the verb, and the first prepositional phrase is on, and the noun phrase is the stage. The as determiner, and the noun as the stage, and the stage as the noun. Sorry. Okay. The last one, imperative. Does anybody knows what is imperative? So imperative is an example of a verb that used in the imperative mood in the English verb phrase such as go. Or imperative is used to give commands or instructions. But some other language also have a so imperative is imply a second person subject, but some other languages also have first and third person imperative with the meaning of let's or let them, such as let's go, let's take let's take a look, or let them be, let them go, let them close the door, let them open. It's such as imperative verb. So we took an example. Open the door slowly. Open the door slowly is imperative sentence, right? So let's take a look in the tree diagram. Okay. The verb phrase, the sentences is verb phrase. There are no noun phrase as the words that we discussed before, like 5 verb before, intransitive, transitive, detransitive, and prepositional phrase, and also what was that? The one I forget about it, and this is the last. But there are no noun phrase in this sentence, so just verb phrase. Okay, the verb phrase contains 3 branches. The first is verb, the second is noun phrase, and the last is adverb phrase. So the verb is transitive. It's open. Because why is transitive? Why I write here the open is transitive verbs? Because it's neat, It requires an object. Yay, right. So the noun phrase is the door. As we know, that transitive verbs need an object. So the object is the door. So it's just like an additional that we add the adverb verse slowly. It's just like, what was that? To let it, yeah. So it's okay if you just say open the door without slowly or close the door. So it's just optional. So I mean it's optional if you add the adverb first or not. It's based on your request. It's based on your, what was that? Your own decision to say it or make it politely. So you need to like, can you open the door slowly, please? So it make no noise. It doesn't make noise. Or maybe open the door hardly because it's stuck and hard to open if you were open it slowly. So it's basically based on your, what was that? Based on your need, based on your needs. Okay, I think that's all. And I really hope that what we learned together in this video, it's give a lot of advantage to you all because yeah, we still learn together, right, about the verb phrase. So I really I will be so grateful and glad to know or to see your comment below about my, what was that, my explanation in this video, or maybe about our discussion now. I hope that we can discuss what my, what was that, what my likeness in this video, or maybe my, I think there are no such a thing that good as this video, but I really hope that this video give much advantage and advantages to you. And yeah, thank you and see you on the next video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye bye.